Hi, I am Kimmy with On William Street, and this week we decided to shift things just a little bit, and we're going to do a fun little extra project for this week. Next week we will be back to our regularly scheduled program of our quilt videos that we're sharing, but this week we are going to say hello to all of the kids that are in our lives. A lot of us have kids or nieces or nephews or grandchildren that see what we do and see that we quilt, and we thought it would be fun to do a series on making your first quilt geared especially towards kids. So if you are on break this week or have a break coming up, we hope that you'll join us, jump on in, and make your very first quilt top. The way that this is going to work is we do have 5 videos planned, and so we're going to release one every day, Monday through Friday. So today we're going to start with the first one, and then tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you'll get a new one, and that's going to each video is going to have a different step of the process and different kind of teach you different things about how to put your quilt top together. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a what's called a disappearing 9 patch, and this is a really fun quilt top. It looks really complicated, but it's really easy to put together. So it's perfect to use for a first quilt project or a beginner quilt project. And so how it's going to work, today we're going to talk about colors and picking your fabric and how to pick fabrics that work well together. Tomorrow we will cut up those fabrics. Wednesday we will make our blocks. Thursday we're going to cut those blocks up. And then Friday we're going to sew them all back together and have your completed top. For this quilt, the way that we kind of have it planned out is you're going to need 9 different fabrics. And this is a really good scrappy quilt. You're going to need what we call a fat quarter roughly of each fabric. So that's going to be about 18 by 22 inches. Or you can get 5 inches by width of the fabric, however it kind of fits in. But if you have someone that you know that sews or quilts, ask them, hey, can I go through your scrap bins? Can I go through your stash? And see if you can find them. If you're going out shopping for fabric, the best thing to do is going to be look for fat quarters and pick out 9 different fat quarters. And we're going to talk about how to pick out those fat quarters based on a little bit of color theory to decide how you want to pick your fabrics and which ones you want to have go together. All right, so picking your fabric. There are definitely a few different things to take into account. The first thing we're going to talk about is color. So this is a very basic color wheel. I'm sure that most of you have seen something like this. And what this does is it kind of helps you see how all the colors flow. And of course, it's in a rainbow. Red and blue make purple, blue and yellow make green, red and yellow make orange. And then it just fills in the colors around that. So on this side of the color wheel, we have what we call our cool colors. And those are our greens, blues, and purples. On this side, we have our warm colors. And those are the yellows, oranges, and reds. So when you're trying to decide what colors you want to make your quilt, there's a few different color palettes that you can kind of look at that are kind of go-to color palettes for artists for when they are deciding what they want to use. So one of those options is called a monochromatic color palette, and that's going to be all in the same color. So if you were saying you wanted to do a monochromatic color palette, if your favorite color is blue, you could pick all blue fabrics and use those for your quilt. This quilt is really kind of what we're calling a scrappy quilt. A little bit of a scrappy quilt, so it doesn't need to be a certain line of fabrics. It doesn't need to be all ones that were made to go together. You can definitely pick and choose anything that you like. So with this, you can see all of our fabrics here are blues, and that's called a monochromatic color palette. So that's one thing that you can look at doing. When you're doing that though, make sure that you get a variation in lights and darks. We have this one here that is very light. This one's a little bit lighter. This one's a dark blue, a medium blue. So make sure that for contrast purposes, it's going to look best if you get a variation. Don't do all dark blues or all light blues. They're going to blend together. You're not going to see them very well. So pick some lights, pick some darks, pick some mediums, and that's going to give you a really nice look for your finished quilt. So the next one that I want to talk about is what's called, is you could do all colors that are next to each other. So in this case, you could do all warm quilts, which is what I have to show you here. So these are all warm colors. They're all oranges, reds, and yellows. And you could do an entire quilt based off of this type of a color palette. And you would just pick 3 colors on next to each other. It could be red, orange, red, and red, violet. It could be blue, blue, green, and green. It doesn't really matter as long as they're next to each other. And you would pick all of your fabrics out of those colors that are next to each other. Again, same thing. Make sure you're getting some dark, some lighter, some medium colors. That's not going to change no matter on what color choice you pick. You're always going to want to make sure that you pick some of different varying lights and darks. The last one that I'm going to talk to you about real quick here, example that I've got, is what's called a contrasting color palette. So this is going to be two colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So the one that we've picked here is kind of this light blue, green, orange combination. So it falls in this blue, green, red, blue, red, red, orange combination. And you can see that they're directly across from each other. And contrasting colors go really, really well together. They just pop when you put them together. You've seen red and green at Christmas time. Everyone loves red and green. You may have seen a lot of purple and yellow, blue and orange. They're very common color palettes because they just really pop and go well together. So here you can see we've got a lot of different oranges and blues. Again, we've got some darks, we have some little bit lighters, we have some medium tones. But you can see how fun this color combination can be. And it really adds a lot of interest. So that's something else to consider when you're looking at it. There are definitely a lot of different color wheels online. So you don't have to remember this. If you're going to the store to buy them or as you're looking through stash bins, pull up a color wheel, just search color wheel online. You'll see lots of different pictures that you can use to kind of help you look at that. So what we've chosen for our color palette today is actually called the Tertiary color palette. And we basically have done a red, blue, yellow color palette with a little other mixed in. And how we really chose this is we picked our main color, our main fabric. We found this one and really loved it. And then we started picking out colors inside. So we have our yellow that we picked. We kind of picked some of the blues. This is some of the red. So that's another way you can kind of look at it too. Find a focal fabric and then match all your other fabrics to that focal. We have this green and blues here, but we have these solids that we mixed in too to kind of really bring it all together and make it pop. So don't be scared of solids. If you want to throw a couple solid fabrics in there, you can. If you want to do all prints, that works too. Like I said, this one you can see we've got kind of a red, yellow, blue theme going on with some other colors mixed in as well. All right, so after you get all of your fabrics picked out, we've got all of our 9 sitting here. Go ahead and set those aside. And we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to go over cutting them. And it's going to be really easy. We're not cutting a lot of crazy shapes. They're all going to just be the same shape to start. So we'll go over basic cutting instructions and show you how to get all these fabrics ready to sew them together. Now, if you have any questions at all this week, definitely you can shoot us an email. I've got a link to our contact page website down in the comments. You can also just leave us a comment directly here on our YouTube video. We want this to be a fun, successful week for you guys, as you may be looking for some boredom busters or some different things to do. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out and ask us any questions. Also, if you do post them on social media, definitely tag us. We would love to see the quilts that you're making and the projects that you're doing. So you can just tag us at On William Street and we will cheer you on, and we'll be back tomorrow ready to cut our fabric.